Hey everybody. In today's video, we're going to talk about the heated race to the top of the rideshare market between Uber and Lyft and some of the things that each company's done to try to attract more drivers and riders. So stay tuned for more. Hey everybody, Justin here with Northern Colorado Rideshare. In today's video, we're going to talk about Uber and Lyft and their race to the top. As pretty much everyone knows, at least on the driver side of the house, Uber has had quite a few instances of doing things that a lot of people don't really like. What is that? Gray ball, the Hell program, the sexual harassment stuff that was going on. Travis Kalanick stepping down, getting a new CEO and all that stuff. So, Uber's really been, trying to step up and do things to take better care of the drivers. I think they're doing the same thing for riders as they've always done. But, they're really trying to dig themselves out of the hole that they've dug, which is, let's be honest, is pretty deep. So Uber's done their 180 days of change here in the past, month or so, couple months now, I guess. Trying to add things that drivers have been asking for. One of the big things, that got added a while back was tipping. I did a video on that. So drivers can get tips left in the app. Drivers were screaming about that probably since day one. Lyft has always had that tipping in the app function. So that was one of the benefits that Lyft had. But, they're making some other changes. One of the things, I got an email the other day from Lyft, and I noticed that Lyft is now going to be doing 6 destination filters per day as well. I know here in this market that I'm in the Denver market, Uber added that, a few weeks ago. We've been able to do 6 destination filters a day. I like that. I think it's awesome. I think it really allows us to... as drivers, it allows us to kind of plan out a little bit more and try to jump in on some of those good rides. For me, I drive out in this Boulder area a lot because I'm out in this area anyway. But you put on that destination filter to the airport, that can be a pretty good ride. And then with Rematch, Uber doing Rematch now for a while. If you can pop a destination filter ride from out where I'm at out to the airport, that's a pretty good ride. And then if you're lucky enough to be back at the airport during a good time where you get a rematch back out of the airport right away, that really maximizes your profit. You are driving 0 dead miles. You're putting, the miles you're putting on your car are with the passenger, so you're making that money with those passengers. So if you can get lucky enough to pop that destination filter out and get a rematch out of the airport, at least here in the Denver market, it's pretty good. And I'm sure some airports and other markets is going to be similar. But yeah, so Lyft is trying to play catch up a little bit with the destination filter. It's kind of the first thing that I've seen that they've done to try to catch up with something Uber's been doing here with that 180 days of change. I know that nationwide, Lyft went ahead and added on Lyft line rides. They made it to where the fares are going to be the same as a regular Lyft ride. So in Denver, Lyft line ride rates were always that way. I'm not sure why they did it. Maybe they were testing that out in some markets without really making a big deal out of it. But Lyft did add on their line rides that it's going to be the same rate as just a regular Lyft ride. So they're competing on that. What else? The destination filter I noticed, the in-app tipping for Uber. They've changed Uber. Another thing Uber's done that I kind of like is the long ride feature. So if it's a 45-minute or more ride, it pops up and says that in the request. So it allows the driver to decide if they want to take a long ride. Maybe they're at the end of the day, or they're kind of getting towards the end of their time of driving, and that's something they don't want is that long ride to pop up, even though they're great, right? But if it if it takes you really out of your way at the end of your day anyway, that can be kind of a bummer. The money is nice, but if you got to get all the way back home after a long ride. So the fact that Uber's putting in that long ride notice in the request as it pops up and lets the driver decide, I think that's cool. I was talking with another driver friend of mine, and we were talking about that. And I kind of wish they would bring it down just a little bit, maybe 35 minutes. And the reason is, out in our market, depending, let's say in Boulder, Colorado, there's a hotel there that you can go to that's technically under the 45 minutes to the airport, but then there's another hotel that you're right at the 45 minutes. So you might get a long trip notification at one of them, but not the other, and you're in the same town. So 45 minutes, I'm not sure where they came up with that. If they could lower it down to like 35 minutes, I think that would be just a little bit better. But in any case, at least they're doing it, and I think that's good. It allows us to see that long distance ride. So if you're early on in your day and you see that long ride request pop up, that's probably going to be a pretty good one. So that's a benefit too. I really think Lyft is going to have a hard time, gaining market share. I know that they are, but in our market, at least the times and areas that I drive, Uber is just so much more busy than Lyft. And with Uber adding some of these things that drivers have been asking about for a while, I think it's going to be hard for Lyft to compete. Look, I know that there's riders that only are Lyft, that are only Uber, and you're always going to have that. There's nothing anyone can do about that. You're going to find people that like the black and white that Uber is, and then you're going to find the people that like the pink that Lyft is, and they're just going to continue to use those apps, and that's fine. But Uber is the big dog, let's be honest. Even with all the the stuff that's been going on, they're the big dog. They've got a huge market share, they've got a following, and now that they're improving the stuff for both drivers and riders, I think it's going to be harder for Lyft. It looks like Alphabet's going to invest $1 billion in Lyft. That sounded awesome until Uber announced that, they've got SoftBank and some other investors where they're talking about 7 to 10 billion. I mean, come on, how, when you've got investors that are willing to throw $10 billion into a company, $1 billion doesn't, even scratch the surface. So, Uber and Lyft are both definitely picking up their game. They're both really pushing on the autonomous cars, and we'll get into that in a different video. We can talk about that all day and how that's going to affect drivers and all that stuff. But they're both really up in their game, and I honestly think the next thing that's really got to happen, or that can happen, is the rates have got to increase. These rates have gotten pretty low. Gosh, you look at some markets and I look at the per mile rate and I'm just like, how can anyone even afford to drive? It's crazy. But hopefully they're going to, increase those rates. Or maybe even if they don't increase the rates, if they just split that, what the rider is paying a little bit differently. I know that we all agreed to the terms of service when we say we're going to drive, and we're paid based on the base fare plus mileage plus time, and then if there's any surge or boost. But Uber is doing that upfront pricing where they're putting these huge booking fees, and maybe a rider that's at a really high-end fancy 5-star hotel, they may be charged different, to go to the airport than someone that's down at the Motel 8, but it's, time and distance, it's the same. But because Uber sees that someone's, at some fancy 5-star resort hotel, they're going to, increase the price for that person to take that ride. I think the driver should get a cut of that. If they charge a $5 booking fee, well, we should get a cut of that booking fee. If they charge a $1 booking fee, well, we should get a cut of that $1 booking fee plus our time and mileage. It just makes sense. If Uber is making that all that booking fee is theirs, right? Let's say they do 500,000 rides per day. If they charge a dollar booking fee at 500,000 rides per day, that's a lot of money. And that's money that's not going to the driver. That's just going straight to Uber. So, there's definitely room for them to cut into the driver better, give us a better cut on that. Just do the booking fee, do everything the same that they're doing, but just give us the cut of that booking fee, regardless of what it is. And I think that would be a big help. I had something else I was going to talk about and drew a blank on that. But anyway, like I said, the race to the top for Uber and Lyft, it's a battle. I think Uber is honestly winning that. I think they're going to continue to win that. They just have a bigger market share. It just is. It's just, a facts. Whether you think they're a good company or not, it's just the fact that they're the big dog right now, and they've got investors that are willing to invest huge amounts of money into development and doing things. So I think the race will continue. Sorry about that. I think the race will continue. I think they're eventually going to get to the point where rates are going to get better for drivers, whether they increase the rates to the riders, or if they just give us a cut of that they're already taking, which would be good too. Another thing that I was talking to another driver about was these long trips and the return fee back to a market. Some folks that live in markets where, some drivers that live in these markets that are rural. Another thing that I was talking to another driver friend of mine about was on these long trips, right? Where, we can ask for a return, fare for if we go way out of our market and things like that. But it's kind of an awkward, there's really not a good way to do it. You basically got to agree with the customer, hey, I'm going way out of my market and I need a return fee. Okay, some people are willing to do that, and that's fine, but there's really not a good way. You basically got to send a text to the rider through the app stating what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're going to charge them, how far you're going to go before you finish the trip, all that. Basically accept that. That way you've got it written in the text, right? Then you go about your business. You go back to where you're going, you end the ride, whatever. Well, if a customer complains, or if Uber looks at that and goes like, oh, why did they go all the way out of there? We're not going to give you that fare. Now you got to fight with Uber, and you got to send them the text messages showing that, look, I talked to the rider about it. He agreed. This is what we agreed upon. Fix my fare. Where it would be neat if they could figure out a way, and I'm not exactly sure how this would be done, so maybe you guys could leave some comments about some ideas on this. I'm thinking maybe a percentage, but if you go on a long ride that's taking you out of that market, maybe there's going to be an upfront that says, hey, this is a long ride, it's taking the driver out of the market. We're going to put a 10% or 15% return fee on that just when the driver ends the ride, it just adds that 10 or 15% as a return back to the market. For some folks, when they're in such a huge market, maybe it's not a big deal, but folks that live in these markets where they can go out into these rural communities or get out of these areas, or maybe into another state where you're not going to necessarily get a ride back, it would be great if they could kind of figure out a way to do something on that, on a kind of an automatic return fee, or just make it easier, to have that option in there. Maybe there's just a button that if the rider's okay paying that, then it's like just a 10%. It's just in the app to be like, here, I'm giving a 10% return to market fee or something like that. But I think that would be a good one too, for those instances where you kind of get pulled out of your market, where you're not going to get a ride. But those are just ideas. These are the things that get brought up, and we as drivers, think of these things and talk about these things, and it's worth at least having the discussion and trying these things out. So, but anyway, like I said, I think Lyft and Uber are going to continue to fight to figure out who's going to be out on top. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I know that there's still some more time in Uber's 180 days of change. Haven't really seen a whole lot here recently, so I'm kind of wondering if they've got some big things they're just kind of waiting, or if they're running out of ideas. But anyway, the race to the top, it's going to be a battle. So definitely leave some comments, down below. I'd like to hear what you guys have to think about some of these ideas, or some of the things you've noticed, and your markets. I know our markets are all very similar in a sense, but pretty different in the types of people and events and things that are going on. So definitely leave those comments in there. Kind of let me know what you think about this race to the top, the space race, if you will, to see who's going to come out and be the top dog on the block. But I'm interested in that. I've got my thoughts and opinions on that too. But leave those comments. Definitely give those thumbs up. We like the thumbs up, and hit that subscribe button. love getting those subscribers. I try to get this information out to people. I hope it's helpful to people. You know, that's why I'm doing this. I kind of enjoy doing this and you know, talking about things that I'm noticing and things that could possibly help out other drivers. So definitely hit that subscribe button. There's a little bell next to it now. If you click on that, it's just going to give you a pop-up alert that I put up a new video. So that way you have the newest, freshest info that I've got out as soon as it comes out. But yeah, definitely comment, like, and subscribe. Love those thumbs up. Love those comments. The comments help me come up with material as well. Like if somebody brings up a great idea that I didn't think about, then you know, I can maybe research that. So definitely those comments are cool. I like seeing those comments. But you know, definitely comment, like, and subscribe, and love it when you watch these videos. So again, Justin with Northern Colorado Rideshare. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.